You can now watch the Kevin O'Connor Show on Yahoo Sports Network, our first ever streaming TV channel. The Yahoo Sports Network is available to stream on all leading FAST services. We're also streaming live 24/7 on yahoosports.tv, where you can catch all of the shows on your phone or your browser. Let's talk some fantasy football. And to do that, Matt Harmon from Yahoo Sports. Matt, what's going on, man?
Kevin, I appreciate being here, man. It is, I keep just feeling more and more like mix of not anxiety, but just that feeling of like something is coming, because week one is like, right, it is just rapidly approaching. Every time I look at the calendar, it's getting closer and closer. But I love this time of year. I'm definitely ready for the actual damn games to start, but I still love talking about this stuff right here before week one really gets rolling.
It's definitely a good time of year. It's always fun, the speculation and all that, until things become real. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. Some of the stuff that's on my mind is I'm trying to get back into the NFL this year because I spent some time away focusing entirely on NBA, NFL back in LA. I was living there, wasn't watching games on Sunday. Now I'm back in Mass, trying to get back into being a Patriots fan again, trying to get back into being an NFL fan again. It is a good time. So I rejoined my friends' fantasy football league, my high school friends, a league that I originally started back in like 08 or 09. And that's part of it. Fantasy football is a big part of it. So I'm thinking about fantasy right now, Matt. And I noticed with our Yahoo Sports fantasy rankings, everybody has Joe Burrow ranked as the QB5, but you have him ranked the highest on your board at 39th, sitting just a little bit behind Jalen Hurts. What is the logic behind kind of having Burrow similar to that top four, clear-cut top four group? Is he, in your mind, a guy that maybe could be a QB1 potential if the Bengals defense is so bad the Bengals are having to score 60 points a game? What's the logic behind Burrow kind of in that spot, closer to that group, rather than some of the other guys in lower tiers?
Sure. So I think with the quarterback position, I've really come around from being kind of like a hardened, true late round quarterback bro for the most part of like my time playing fantasy football, because like, okay, there's just not that much difference between the guys at the top and the guys at the bottom of the position, but that has really changed over the last few years. And for the most part, it's these hyper mobile but also super efficient passers, your Lamar Jacksons, your Josh Allen, your Jaden Daniels. When we get to the third round of fantasy drafts, like I kind of think the third round is pretty weak this year. You know, the wide receiver picks are dicey. The running backs there are like Amari Hampton, Kyron Williams. Those guys are kind of my favorite picks in the third round among running backs, but they're not flawless bets either. So typically, like Jaden Daniels is the last guy in that first tier. I end up taking him a lot, but that second tier, which to me is a two-man tier, and you mentioned, is Jalen Hurts and it's Joe Burrow. I still like taking those guys ahead of some of the more dicey picks at the running back and wide receiver position before we really get into an interesting area of the draft, which I know we'll talk about later. And to me, if you're going to be, you know, Joe Burrow, obviously he can move a little bit. He's had some rushing ability throughout the course of his career, but he's still more so a true pocket quarterback than those other four players that we just talked about. If you're going to be that guy and you're going to have QB1 overall upside, it has to be in the right ecosystem, in the right environment, part of which is, as you mentioned, that defense is going to force them into pass first game scripts. We saw that last year. I know it's just preseason, but based on the preseason so far, doesn't look like that got any better over the course of the offseason. And you're also going to need to be in a unique offensive environment as well, which certainly is true with all of the weapons coming back in Cincinnati, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. So yeah, if I miss out on the early tier of quarterbacks and I still want to lock that position in, I do think Joe Burrow is a top 40 pick. He has QB1 upside for sure.
Interesting. So I think with Burrow, that's one of the things that's been on my mind lately. When do I want to go QB? Because I think this year there's still a lot of guys. Like as a Patriots fan, like I think Drake May should have a better year.
Yeah.
If you do miss out on those top guys, there are a number of different options you can go to later in the draft. But it seems like you think with Burrow, he's kind of head and shoulders above some of those guys, where he'd be worth taking in a round 3 or round 4 over some of the wide receivers, running backs in that range, because maybe with them you're getting more equal value in rounds 5, 6, 7, 8, rather than quarterback, where you do feel like Burrow just offers higher upside.
Yeah, so for me and my kind of like picks 34 to like 40 range, I mentioned Kyron Williams, Amari Hampton, I do think there's like a tier breakdown to guys that are true 4th-round picks, but players I would take ahead of Joe Burrow. Kenneth Walker in Seattle, I think, is a guy that as long as he stays healthy, he has a high ceiling this year, man. He's a natural fit in this outside zone run scheme, and he's just been a proven producer, again, when he's been on the field. I don't mind taking Zach Charbonnet, the backup, later, and I actually think that Charbonnet might have some standalone value as well. I love taking those type of backs that might have a little bit of standalone value, but also have great contingent upside, so Charbonnet is a great pick later. Alvin Kamara, Chuba Hubbard also are 2 guys I like taking in this range, but then I think there's another drop-off to the next group of running backs, and certainly the Terry McLaurin, Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson tier of wide receivers that I would probably just rather secure Burrow there. But once Burrow goes off the board, man, like we're talking about quarterbacks structurally this year, I don't have another quarterback inside my top 75 picks, because I think from QB 6 all the way down to like QB 17, it's extremely flat. So yeah, like Pat Mahomes is my QB 6. Kyler Murray's up in that range. I typically end up just waiting and grabbing the Drake Mays or even Brock Purdy, those guys later on that I think offer very similar floor to ceiling projections, but just go much later in drafts.
With Mahomes, you have him as your QB6. Has the time passed for him being a QB1, QB2? Is that like there's no hope of him being like the steal?
I mean, there's always hope because he's really good. He might be the best
Pat
quarterback
Mahomes.
in the. Yeah, he's that. It's such stupid analysis, but like, yeah, he's Patrick Mahomes. Like that's always on the table, and I do think that the drafting and apparently just immediate insertion to the starting lineup of Josh Simmons could end up being a huge deal, because really, if Pat Mahomes is going to get back to being that like quarterback 1 in fantasy, and that's why I still want to have him ranked the highest of this tier. It's going to be because him and Xavier Worthy just connect on more of those deep shots. And some of that was on Worthy. Honestly, some of that is on Patrick Mahomes. And I think Mahomes is a guy that you can tell gets really uncomfortable, which, I mean, shoot, I don't blame him. I'd be uncomfortable too with all those guys coming after me. Like when there's issues at tackle, there's pressure off the edge. So if Simmons is locking that left tackle position down and Mahomes just has a half a second longer to set his feet and let it rip accurately down the field to Xavier Worthy, who certainly can get open on those vertical routes. Like that's how he gets back to being that guy. But I just look at the construction of this offense right now with Rashee Rice going to be suspended at some point, Travis Kelce on the decline. I'm just not sure that they have enough. Like it's enough to win a Super Bowl, which is the real ultimate goal. But is it enough for him to be like a difference maker in fantasy? That's where I'm a little skeptical.
You mentioned Xavier Worthy. He, of course, went viral last week with the New Heights interview with Taylor Swift, her mentioning him by name as one of a wide receiver sleepers. And I listened to your podcast, Yahoo Fantasy Forecast. You guys just launched Yahoo Fantasy Football YouTube channel, growing fast. Cool to see everything you guys are doing up there now on its own channel if people want to check that out. And you guys had a recent episode about wide receivers. And one of the themes of that conversation, like aside from Jamar Chase and the top targets in first, second round, you said rounds 5 to 8 are the real sweet spot for wide receivers this year. And so I want to go through some categories of like the wide receivers in that general range, starting with like, who do you think is the surest thing in that round 5 to 8 range for wide receivers?
Yeah, and again, it is an awesome group of players. One that, like I'm writing up my favorite pick in every round piece right now, and I did the classic hedge thing where, like, yeah, in round 7, I mean, I like this guy, but my favorite pick, so just like, let's get all the names like out there, because like
8 honorable mentions. It's like, wait, that's the whole round.
Correct. Yeah, the classic, like, yeah, well, I really do love, because it's a great area.
NBA award voting's like that. It's like all NBA and your honorable mentions at the end. It's like 15 names and then 20 more honorable mentions. It's like, okay, you don't need to list all of them.
Yeah, it's the cover your ass section of whatever you're doing, right? Like, yes. See, you guys can't get mad at me because I did give him an honorable mention. Like, yeah, it wasn't top 10, but it's an honorable mention. Close enough, right? I mean, that is just that's classic sports media stuff right there for the people watching and listening. But yeah, no, I think the surest bet kind of in that range is like Devontae Smith, who I have at wide receiver 24, which Devontae Smith is number one, damn good player, excellent wide receiver. I think really was kind of maximized last year as more of an interior receiver. He's a guy that can win from all 3 alignments. He's somebody who could play X even at a smaller size because historically been in reception perception, which is my charting methodology for wide receivers. We can get into that in a bit, but like he's always been great against press coverage, like even because he's such a good, strong technician. He plays bigger than his size. But last year he took a career high reps from the slot, and that really, again, I think made him from an efficiency standpoint very, very good. Now, I think we are over-indexing on what the Eagles were last year, and they should still have a really good run game and a real good defense this year, but let's say they are the 5th best run game in the NFL, or they're the 8th best defense as opposed to number 1 in the league. Like, that's just going to be more passing volume to this Eagles offense, and I think, like, you take Devontae Smith, you know what you're getting. You're getting really good wide receiver 2 production, but he's one of those rare wide receivers that has contingent upside if A.J. Brown, who, like, I love A.J. Brown, knock on wood, he's dealing with a hamstring injury right now. If he misses games, Devontae Smith then probably will be ranked as a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. So, like, he's a sure bet. It's a very safe floor player, but somebody that I also think you can imagine high upside if Brown misses time.
What do you think about the philosophy of pairing quarterback and wide receiver or pairing quarterback and tight end? Like, if I draft Jalen Hurts early in my draft, do I want to take Smith in the 5 to 8 range, or do I want to look elsewhere to diversify my roster?
I think if you're doing, these like larger field best ball tournaments, then that really does matter because you're trying to beat out a wide field of players. But you have to nail the exact right offense. I always come back to those the 2013 Denver Broncos. It's like, oh, who won your league that year? It was whoever got like Peyton Manning and multiple of his pass catchers when he broke records as a passer. So if you land on that type of environment, I think you can absolutely like go for that strategy because you're just going to be a really tough team to beat. But I don't think it's necessary. Like, I wouldn't go out of my way to take Devontae Smith like a whole round ahead of ADP because I think the Eagles offense can be really good, but I don't know if they have like that.
Would I even drop him on my own board if I'm getting Jalen Hurts? Like, I would not raise him, but would I perhaps want to go elsewhere?
No, I wouldn't try to think about it too much like that. Like, again, I just make the best pick on the board is really the right way to go about it. So it's one thing to me, like if it's in one of those like larger field basketball tournaments, I think you could do that. But to me, I just think in a typical redraft league, like this tier is so big that I wouldn't necessarily, like, if you want to go that way, like I wouldn't fight you if you took a couple wide receivers ahead of him. But to me, I do think he just projects so well that I wouldn't try to like overthink it in that way.
All right, so for some of those other wide receivers, who do you think is the biggest boomer bust wide receiver in this range?
Yeah, I think it's Rome Odunze, Bears wide receiver, who goes like towards the back half in this range. But I will just fully admit that I'm a big Rome Odunze fan. I thought he was an awesome prospect. I thought he was right up there with the Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, the Malik Neighbors in last year's 2024 draft. I thought he was such a detailed technician, a guy who really just dominated against press man coverage and seemed like a natural fit at the X receiver spot for the Chicago Bears, which is exactly what did not happen in the 2024 Bears offense. He ended up being a guy that kind of moved around the formation, didn't really have there were not a lot of clear roles in that 2024 Bears wide receiver room, and then the entire offense was a disastrous environment. I'm pretty much willing to give guys like Rome and Caleb Williams, these younger players in Chicago's offense, a little bit of a pass for what we saw last year from a statistics perspective, because it was clearly just like a rotten to the core environment. But coming in with Ben Johnson, I think, again, fresh start here. He seems like the type of guy that Ben Johnson is going to really gravitate to. He's right and tight on the details, which is what if you've paid attention to Ben Johnson at all as the Bears head coach, you can tell that he's very demanding on those players. We actually had Rome on the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, and he talked about, he has been hard on us. He's been demanding about the details, but he's like, this is the type of guy I am. Like, I love that style of coaching. So I think like more role clarity for a guy like Odunze, the ceiling is really there if Caleb takes to this offense, if the Bears finally get like stuck out of the mud from an offensive perspective, which it might not happen right away, right? Like this unit, I know they dominated in preseason, but they might come out a little slow out of the gate as they're paring things down, finding what works for these players. But overall, in the back half of the season, I think this offense could really hit. But Odunze is just like a talent bet to me that I really like. But you do also have to acknowledge that it's crowded in this offense. DJ Moore is still there. We'll see what his role becomes under Ben Johnson. They drafted Luther Burden in the second round. Luther Burden is a very talented player who I think needs hard coaching and is going to get it here. They have 2 tight ends they want to get in the mix. So it's not as if like, oh, you can just pencil in Odunze for 130 targets and really look for that boom. There's a way that he just kind of becomes a solid wide receiver 3, and you're maybe slightly disappointed if you reached on him ahead of ADP.
That makes total sense. So with him, it's not really a question of talent and offense with Ben Johnson being as talented as he is. It's more so just a matter of targets and the share of opportunity he gets within that offense. So you mentioned him. He's entering his second year in the NFL. Who's like the best rookie swing in that range? Is there a rookie wide receiver in rounds 5 to 8 that people should be thinking about?
Yeah, there's 2 of them really. It's Tedero McMillan and then Travis Hunter. I'll talk about Travis Hunter because I think he's just slightly more interesting. Like I like Tet where he goes, or T Mac where he goes, but Hunter is to me, special wide receiver prospect. Like I don't watch a lot of college football. I mean, I know who Travis Hunter is, obviously, but Kevin, you and I were talking before the show. I'm a happily married man. I'm trying to stay a happily married man. It would be tough to sell my wife on, hey, football basically dominates our life, 365 days of the year mostly, but especially during the season, pretty much every day. But I got a whole nother day here on Saturday where I'm going to be locked into football. That would be a tough sell. That would be a tough sell to the wife. So I don't watch a lot of college football, but again, I knew who Travis Hunter was as like a 2-way player. So I go back all the way back in February when I'm going to start charting wide receiver prospects for reception perception. I'm like, well, we'll see how good this guy is actually at wide receiver. He certainly is raw as a technician, which you'd expect because he did not spend almost any time in offensive meetings in Colorado, which is crazy, by the way, that's he was as good as he is as a wide receiver, and he wasn't even really practicing or spending time at the position. But you just look at him, he's so explosive, 97th percentile success rate versus zone coverage and reception perception, 97th against press, 92nd against man coverage. Even if he's not perfectly detailed as a route runner, he is an elite separator because he's so explosive, and when he is right on the details, he's an impossible cover. Great with the ball in his hands, rare catching and tracking ability. Like, again, that looks like an elite wide receiver prospect to me. And he gets drafted by Jacksonville. They trade up for him. It's been pretty clear for a while they want him to be an offensive first player, and I just love the way he was in preseason glimpses we got of him in that first game, in the slot, off the line of scrimmage, in motion, getting layup targets. The Bucs last year under Liam Cohen were the best screen team, and they were great at creating opportunities in space for their wide receivers. I think Hunter just profiles really well as a guy that can win in that way. So if you're taking it's a big swing, and I know some people are scared that he's gonna be more of a cornerback. I think he will play on defense, no question about it, but he's going to be a near full-time player on offense on passing downs. And to me, in this range where he goes, like in this picks, kind of 76 range, I'm more than willing to take that swing on him there.
I Googled his name while we were chatting, and the first thing that popped up was a Yahoo Sports article about Travis Hunter's divorce already. You just said you're happily married. I mean, I hope already. Jeez, God, everybody saw that coming, I guess. Or so. Travis Hunter. Yeah. That's true.
More time to focus on football, I suppose.
Yeah. Yes, more time to focus on football. So, yeah, maybe he moves up a little bit in rankings there. But Travis Hunter, definitely talented. I mean, look, I think anytime you have like either multi-sport athletes or multi-position athletes, they're just fun. Like, they're fun players. I think it's going to be cool to see a guy hopefully play both sides of the ball. So Travis Hunter, I'll keep him in mind in that range. Who's the boring but reliable veteran in rounds 5 to 8 as a wide receiver people should be thinking about?
I think it's Calvin Ridley here. And it's taken a while for his ADP to actually get on the rise because I think people just look at the Tennessee Titans offense. They were terrible last year. They drafted first in the NFL draft for a reason. They were not a good team last year. But I think Ridley, because we just kind of crossed the Titans off last year, and honestly, like, I feel for Titans fans, man. They have the first pick in the draft, and still nobody talks about this team. Like, nobody talks about the Tennessee Titans. They might be the most overlooked team in the entire NFL. But again, like, people did not realize that Calvin Ridley, in that poisoned offensive environment last year, had 1,000 yards. He was top 10 in yards per route run against man coverage. Like, he was super productive. And again, charting him last year for reception perception, he was somebody that really took a big step forward in his second year back from a long absence away from the NFL. He's away from the game, a year-long suspension for gambling. He took about a half season off with the Atlanta Falcons in his last year there for mental health reasons, which he's been public about and open about. So his first year back with the Jaguars in 23, he was definitely volatile, but he was much more of like a steady, consistent wide receiver last year on film. And now he's getting a quarterback that, look, Cam Ward's a rookie. We don't totally know what we're going to get there, but he's been super complimentary of Ridley as like clearly his guy. So I just think people probably are just going to completely look away from his name, but he's been ranked outside the top 30 receivers for most of the offseason. I have him closer to wide receiver 23, somebody I would be perfectly comfortable relying on as a wide receiver 2. And if you can get him as a 3, I think there's both a good ceiling and floor projection there.
You mentioned reception perception. How is Calvin Ridley's route tree a match with Cam Ward? Like, is Cam Ward as a rookie quarterback a good fit with Calvin Ridley?
I'm so glad that you asked this because this is one of the things that has really hammered home how good of a pick Calvin Ridley is this year to me. Because if you think about like how Ridley again was productive last year with Will Levis, it was mostly just on these deep shot plays because that's how Will Levis really wants to play. He wants to push that ball down the field, and there's not a lot in terms of the short underneath kind of base boring routes. And this is why I think Ridley projects better from a floor perspective this year, because Cam Ward, some of the routes that he's best at throwing are these like intermediate routes over the middle of the field, the shorter routes like slants and digs, stuff like that. He's good at layering those passes. He's got good touch and timing and accuracy working over that middle of the field. And he's aggressive enough to drill it in over zone coverage. And when you look at Ridley last year, 86.1% success rate on slants. And that's just like him getting open. That's not getting targets, production, any of that. 86.8 on digs. Not a lot of targets, not a lot of accurate footballs on those 2 routes last year. I think that is going to change with Cam Ward under center.
Interesting. I like it. I've enjoyed Cam Ward's quotes. It seems to have a good head on his shoulders. I see why the Titans invested in him with the number 1 pick. Seems to have the right mindset. Calvin Ridley. Interesting with him because I rejoined my friend's fantasy football league and I'm inheriting a team because they're doing keepers. So I get 1 keeper after I think round 4 or round 5. And the 2 options in my mind are James Cook, Bills running back, as a 5th round keeper, or Calvin Ridley as an 8th round keeper. And the league is full PPR. I'm leaning towards James Cook in that range. Round 5 feels like good value. However, the fact it's full PPR, the fact James Cook has a potential handcuff behind him and Zay Davis, who could be getting a lot of opportunities, I'm still strongly considering Ridley as round 8 as my keeper and then going elsewhere in round 5 instead of James Cook. But I'm leaning towards Cook at this moment. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like when you do fantasy football stuff, you have to have like a thought on every player. And I just feel like I don't have like a strong feeling on James Cook. You know, I definitely realize that the touchdowns that he scored last year are probably not repeatable, right? Like I don't think there's some regression coming there, both because, as you mentioned, like Ray Davis is a good back. They also love Ty Johnson. Josh Allen loves Ty Johnson. He's called him like the best 3rd down back in the league. So like James Cook is a guy who definitely can be is the starting back, and he's the guy there. They just paid him, obviously, as we're showing on screen right now. Like they believe in James Cook, but also Josh Allen's always going to steal goal line carries away as well. So I think those touchdowns are not really repeatable this year, but is he going to just outright bust as a probably more so of a 3rd, 4th round pick? So you are getting him at a value as a 5th. But I have him ranked 40th overall. So I think like he's a guy that you probably, if you're coming up at bat and you're swinging at James Cook, I don't know that you're going to hit a home run as the 40th overall pick, but I think you definitely get on base with him. Ridley, though, in round 8, like I've got him ranked 50th overall. So there's definitely a big gap to where I have Ridley to where kind of the industry has Ridley. And then certainly, you know, you're keeping the 8th round there. To me, it just, like who else is getting kept in this league? Like, are there going to be a lot of running backs available? Because there is definitely a drop off in my running back rankings from a certainty perspective once we get out of that top 18 players to position. I think with wide receiver, as much as I like Ridley, like, dude, we're talking about this rounds 5 to 8 range. I could sit here and rattle off like 15 names that I like in this range. So I would probably just end up keeping James Cook now that we've talked this out in like a therapy session.
For sure. I mean, I think that's where I'm leaning here. And you're right. It does depend a lot on what others do with their keepers as well, with what you decide to do. But ultimately, I think James Cook, there's a safety, even if he only runs for 900 yards and only 8 touchdowns. I mean, I'd be disappointed spending round 5 on him. But there's a level of reliability that you feel like you're going to get from him. This week, Brian Robinson Jr. being shopped in trade talks. Who is the rookie running back behind him? Is he worth spending a pick on? Tell me about this situation, Matt.
Yeah, Bill Croskey-Merritt or Jacory Croskey-Merritt, a 7th round pick is apparently enough for them. And they also really like Chris Rodriguez, and obviously Austin Eckler is still there too. So it just feels like Brian Robinson
Austin
Jr.
Eckler. I know that. I know that name, Austin Eckler. That's a name that I know. But he's now not even clear-cut starter. He's fallen off at this point.
I know it feels kind of funny. This is class. I used to host a show with Austin Eckler, and I would always tell him about the life cycle of a fantasy football running back. Like I was like, let me tell you what, buddy. Like, see you, because he perfectly encapsulates this. When Austin came onto the scene with the Los Angeles Chargers, they still had Melvin Gordon there, and obviously at that point it was like, get Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon's a former first round pick who was like an instant hit in fantasy leagues. It's like, oh yeah, like Melvin Gordon, I'm drafting that guy, rookie, first round pick, whatever, ends up being a pretty productive guy. Then Austin comes on the scene. He's like more efficient. He's like a more explosive rusher. People like, get Melvin Gordon out of here. I'm trying to see Austin Eckler. And then obviously Eckler goes on a great run. He was like the running back 1 overall in multiple seasons for fantasy. And now he's like the old guy that people don't even talk about. We're like, yeah, look at Jacory Croskey-Merritt or whatever. So I'm like, this is the life cycle of a fantasy running back. But I still think there's decent value in taking Eckler as a late round pick. He's a passing down guy, and this is an offense, Kevin, that Nate Tyson and I are doing a show about this that's going to be live today at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. You can find it wherever you get your podcast too. But like, we're looking at offenses that have we're more so trying to look at the disappointing players, and I promise I'm going to actually answer your question here in a second. But like looking at these offenses that are projected to be really highly scoring offenses from multiple sources, which the Commanders certainly are, but nobody really wants to take any of their players, which is to me just why Jaden Daniels is such a great pick. But if the Commanders offense is going to be great again this year, we have to like put some priority on some of these running back picks. Like, so Eckler is a late round draft pick. Bill Croskey-Merritt, who does look like him and kind of Chris Rodriguez, like I said, a guy that they like. I don't want to just overlook him, and he was good in the preseason last night as well. Those guys might split like the early down banger work, which does leave Eckler to take some early down work, but also inherit passing down work as well. And obviously with a scrambling quarterback, you're not going to catch as many passes. But to me, I do think all of those guys are worth targeting in the late rounds. I would probably rank it Bill Croskey-Merritt, just because, again, younger guy, explosive. He's going to get the early down running work, most likely over Rodriguez. Then I think it's Eckler. Then Rodriguez is more like a deeper league kind of look at. If anything happens here injury-wise, maybe somebody you're running to the waiver wire for.
I know you wouldn't be spending like a first or second round pick on Croskey-Merritt or really any of these rookie running backs aside from Travion Henderson with my Patriots. But I think I've been burned so many times in the past with rookie running backs, banking on them being the star guy. I mean, that was a dummy who took Trent Richardson in the first round many years ago. I've seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire, all these backs over the years that people are like, oh yeah, they're going to be big this year. And I've been burned on rookie running backs. So with this year, though, where's the level of certainty? Have things changed with rookie running backs, Matt, in the last 4 or 5 years that I haven't really been watching a lot of NFL? Because it feels like there's a lot of them being mentioned as quality picks this year in fantasy football.
Well, you're definitely forgetting the biggest fish of them all, which is Ashton Genty with the Raiders. And it's like, it's easy to forget him just because he's just been locked in as a first round fantasy pick since the moment he was frankly like before he was drafted,
the fear, man.
And it's funny you mentioned Trent Richardson, because I actually made that comparison of how things can go poorly for Ashton Genty and the Raiders.
I just want to do it. I want to do it.
Here's the thing. Like I mentioned that show that Nate and I are going to do, the offense that has the biggest disparity with how high their players are going and how again, from like multiple sources, Aaron Schatz at DVOA, Mike Clay, like Vegas scoring projections, the offense with the biggest disparity between how high their players are going and how much the offense is projected to score is easily the Las Vegas Raiders, because like Brock Bowers is a locked in second round pick. Ashton Genty is a locked in first round pick. And I can't find a source that expects the Raiders to be anything better than like the 20th best offense in the NFL. Vegas has them scoring the 27th most points per game. And like, obviously those projections can be wrong, of course, but it's just, man, that's a big leap of faith to kind of, and Jacoby Myers is even a guy that he fits into that like rounds 5 to 8 range of a guy that's a pretty rock solid veteran that people are taking around the 90th overall selection. So either the industry is way wrong about the Raiders, or one of those two players, Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, is going to likely disappoint as a first or second round pick. Overall, I don't mind taking rookie running backs when you get them at like a nice discount. Like Genty's a guy that I have kind of struggled with as a clear first round pick, but you're ticking off other names. He does kind of stand out from a volume perspective there. That is how much he's going to touch the football and how much I do expect them to want to be run heavy. But shoot, like, yeah, Travion Henderson with the Patriots is rocketing up draft boards. Marion Hampton with the Chargers is a guy that, with Najee Harris, dealing with this eye injury, he has not practiced at all with the team after that July 4th fireworks incident. He looks like he's going to moonwalk into a starting job. So the thing I would say, Kevin, if you are taking these rookie running backs, and this is also true with rookies at the wide receiver position, you got to be ready to be a little patient. Like you can't, like let's say RJ Harvey with the Denver Broncos. He goes out there and like J.K. Dobbins is just out-snapping, outworking him early on in the season. In September, he's getting that veteran deference. You've got to be able to just sit there and like say, hey, took RJ Harvey for the back half of the year. Like that's when he's really gonna, really get rolling. So sometimes, honestly, it's not who drafts the rookies, it's who ends up picking them up off the waiver wire when somebody in your league got a little impatient and dropped them.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes that's the gamble, and obviously waiting for guys on waivers is a risk as well. But before I let you go, Matt, I got to point out we both have an album behind our head, Hotel California, by the Eagles. We both have it over our shoulders. You have it over your right shoulder. I have it over mine as well right here. Crazy.
You notice that? Yeah.
Wild.
Well, I mean, when they actually set this like home background up when I was living in LA and I had to try to recreate it here. The number one comment I always get is like, why don't you change the records out enough? And I'm just, cause buddy, like I'm not thinking about what's behind me for the most part. I'm on camera every damn day of my life. The last thing I'm thinking about is these records, but I did like, all right, we'll do it for the 2025 season. I'm doing a refresh. And for some reason I went like all three just black. I've got Dawes here over my left shoulder. I've got Alabama Shakes here over my head.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, well, Hotel California, I need something a little more throwback. And that definitely fit kind of in the theme there as well.
Yeah, it looks nice. I'm currently learning the solo Hotel California. So I'm like going to learn a Led Zeppelin solo. I'm going to learn the Eagles solo as well. So I got those over my shoulders for a little bit of inspiration.
There we go.
But yeah, classic. Did you see him at Sphere by any chance? The Eagles?
No, I didn't.
No, damn. That was sensational. It was a great time. Matt,
oh, yeah, that's awesome.
We can all find your stuff at Yahoo Fantasy Forecast on any audio platform. You just launched the Yahoo Fantasy Football YouTube channel. Been awesome to see everything going up there. You're crushing it, Matt. Thank you so much for joining me today, man.